Jesus is not white. So recently I made a video sharing my testimony and I said that I wanted to introduce people to the real Jesus, not the white Jesus. And I was actually surprised because a lot of people got offended by that, thinking that I was race baiting. Someone said that I'm following a false prophet. Someone accused me of not being loving to all people in all the world. So I thought it was important for me to make a video talking about what I mean, that Jesus is not white. So first off, Jesus was not white. And some people would go to the other extreme and say that Jesus was black. So I think it's important to say that his race and his color of his skin does not actually matter. In Galatians, it says that there is no Jew or Greek or Gentile, that we are all one in Christ. And this is actually why it's important to talk about the fact that Jesus was not white, because some people can think that the white Jesus, if Jesus is white and I'm also white, then I'm superior to other people. The idea that we get Jesus being blonde hair and blue eyes was because a very famous depiction of him was drawn by a European in Europe, and he looked like them. We have a Jesus that looks like he's African. We have a Jesus that looks like he's Asian. We have a Jesus that looks like the people that is drawing him. And then we have some people like the Black Hebrew Israelites that say Jesus was black and that white people are the devil. And they think only certain nationalities are going to be going to heaven. So Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Africans, but not the white Europeans, because those people are the devil. And this too is false. Very false. Wrong, not biblical at all. So Jesus was born in Bethlehem in the Middle East. So he probably was darker than me, but lighter, definitely lighter than Wesley Snipes. European people painted Jesus in their own image to relate to their culture. I've even met some Christians that would take scriptures of the Bible and they think that this points to the fact that Jesus was black. In Daniel chapter 7 verse 9, it says something interesting. The ESV, as I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and his wheels were like burning fire. So they take this verse, and I had students when I teach in college and others say, his hair was like wool. And they take that to mean that only Africans have very kinky hair that's really rough like wool. So this is showing us that Jesus, the Son of Man, had to be a black person. And this is why context is very important. In the book of Revelation, we have an appearance of Jesus himself, and he sheds more light on the image that we're talking about. In the first chapter, it actually expands on what Daniel was seeing. In verse 13, it says, and in the midst of the lampstands, one like a son of man, clothed with the long robe and with the golden sash around his chest. The hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. So if you notice, it actually talks about the color, not the texture of the hairs on his head. Let's continue. The hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. His voice was like the roar of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars. From his mouth came a sharp 2 double-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining in full strength. These same people will point to the verse that says his feet were like burnished bronze, right? Like a dark color. And they would say, oh, look at this verse. So first in Daniel, it says his hair is kinky like wool. And you jump all the way to Revelation and it says that his feet were dark. So I think it's very important to understand what's happening. So in Revelation, it's apocalyptic literature. Same thing as with Daniel. They're end time literature using imagery to express something that is happening. And for people that don't know and don't read apocalyptic literature or have not read Daniel, they misunderstand what's actually happening here. So in Daniel, there's a vision that comes, and it's a statue of Nebuchadnezzar, and it's this big giant statue that's in front of him. And it talks about different parts of this statue that represent different parts and different kingdoms that are going to come. And the head is made of gold, and this is Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom. It's going to be made of fine gold. The chest and the arms are going to be made of silver. The belly and the thighs are going to be made of bronze. The legs are going to be made of iron, and his feet are going to be mixed with iron and clay. And this is very significant to what's actually happening in Revelation. But first in Daniel, this mixed statue is actually representing the different kingdoms. And then what happens is there's this big rock that's carved out of a cave, out of a mountain actually. And this rock comes and it hits this statue. It hits the feet because the feet were mixed with iron and clay, meaning they were not strong like the rest of the body, right? It has gold, it has bronze, it has iron, but they were mixed. And when it comes, it destroys the statue because the foundation was not strong. So we jump back to Revelation. It says that Jesus's feet were like polished bronze in a fiery furnace. Is saying that this is strong, a strong foundation. This is very something powerful, something that's not going to be easily taken, knocked down, or destroyed, just like the other statue was, right? It's relating back to what was told in Daniel, but also it's interesting that people would take this to be literal, right? It says that his hair, but also his face was white like snow. Then other verses will talk about his tongue was like a double-edged sword, and his voice was like raging waters. So this is not a literal description of Jesus. This is representing different things. There's a lot of things that you can actually learn and study if you look up the meaning behind the symbolism. And so when John is writing this, he's writing to represent and to speak through metaphors. And that's one thing that is very true of prophetic and apocalyptic literature. If you read the book of Revelation, you see it has many symbols and things that are not actual literal. So again, we can't use Revelation or Daniel to say that Jesus was an African person, he was dark person, because that's not what it says. I also want to emphasize that the Bible doesn't tell us exactly what Jesus looked like, because I think that it's not important. If Jesus is light skinned and I'm light skinned, I feel superior. If he's dark skinned and I'm dark skinned, I feel superior. If he's light brown like I'm light brown, then I feel superior than other people. I say Jesus is on my team and he's not. It doesn't talk about what his skin tone actually was, because that's not what matters. Jesus is for everyone. Every tribe, nation, and tongue is supposed to come and worship him. So if I made you mad or you disagree with me, put it in the chat. I would love to have a conversation with you, because I think that there's maybe an underlining thing that we need to talk about, why you think that this is so important of thinking that he's white or black, because he wasn't either. But ethnically, he was a Jew. He fulfilled all the laws. He was of God's chosen people. He lived in the Middle East, and he looked like the common people. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you got any benefit out of this, and I would appreciate if you subscribe, like, and share this. And until next time, peace.